In 1942, the Manhattan Project was created to develop an atomic bomb to defeat Germany. They had previously started making atomic weapons, so the United States wanted to beat them to it. But the war ended, so we used the bomb on Japan.
Whoa, wait a minute, you're skipping ahead there.
Yeah, you're right. Let's back up. In 1939, Germany, led by Adolf Hitler, invades Poland, violating the Treaty of Versailles. France and Britain had a treaty with Poland, so they declared war on Germany. The war was split into two sides, the Allies and the Axis. The Allies were France, the Soviet Union, USA, British Empire, Canada, Poland, and 44 others. The Axis powers were Germany, Italy, Japan, and 5 others. On December 7, 1941, the Japanese attempted to eliminate the Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. By defeating the Pacific Fleet, the Japanese hoped to prevent interference with the actions that were planned in Southeast Asia against overseas territories of the UK, the Netherlands, and the United States. After the attack, the U.S. declared war on Japan, causing Japan's ally, Germany, to declare war on the United States. The United States of America was now in World War II.
Germany and Italy are bought into it, and Japan signs what was known as the Tripartite Pact. And then what they did is they sided up with Germany and Italy, and that was after the fall of France. So really the main reason that Japan wanted to do that is so they could move in and take all the French colonies in Indochina especially, so they could launch future attacks in the Pacific. But I think Japan had to do something about us because we were their only obstacle to a Pacific empire, which is what they were looking for at the time.
In 1932, Harold C. Urey discovered heavy hydrogen. This was useful in nuclear fusion reactions because of the large reaction rate. John Cockcroft and Ernest T.S. Walton split the atom, which proved Einstein's theory of relativity. The splitting of the atom causes nuclear fission to occur, allowing for the creation of the atomic bomb. After hearing about Germany's plans to create an atomic bomb, Leo Szilard began lobbying the United States government to begin a nuclear research program and recruited 2 other Hungarian scientists, Edward Teller and Eugene Wigner, to help him. Szilard enlisted the help of his old friend Albert Einstein, but the trio had little success convincing the government of the seriousness of the threat. Einstein dictated to Teller a draft of a letter to Roosevelt. The letter advised Roosevelt of the dangers of nuclear weapons and urged him to begin a nuclear research program in the United States. Economist Alexander Sachs, an acquaintance of Szilard and unofficial advisor to Roosevelt, promised to personally deliver the letter to the president.
He wrote to Roosevelt telling him what the Germans were doing and encouraged us to do some development of our own. I think the British scientists were the ones who really wanted to push it, but obviously it was obviously easier to do it in the United States because we're not getting attacked and bombed on a regular basis. So that made more sense of having the whole program here. But what was that? I read somewhere like $2 billion, I think, which was a lot of money back then, just in the development of the bombs themselves. So.
Einstein read what he about Szilard has written, asked a few questions about it, and then said yes, and signed it.
On October 11, 1939, in response to Einstein and Szilard's letter of warning, President Roosevelt formed the Advisory Committee on Uranium. This would come to be known as the Manhattan Project. In the summer of 1942, the Manhattan Engineer District, headed by Leslie R. Groves, was set up in Syracuse, New York. Within 2 days of being hired, Groves obtained an excellent production site in Tennessee. He moved the Manhattan Engineer District from New York to Washington. The first order of business for Groves was to find a respected scientist to supervise the scientific side of the project. After denying several scientists the job, Groves set his sights on 38-year-old Dr. J. Robert Oppenheimer, who would later be known as the father of the atomic bomb. Immediately following his appointment, Oppenheimer proposed reorganizing the Manhattan Project scientists. Up until then, they were scattered about the country working in different laboratories. Oppenheimer proposed unifying the project, beginning with the establishment of a central laboratory under a single director where the bomb would be built. Groves strongly agreed with Oppenheimer's proposal. Several areas in the southwestern United States were considered for testing, but a site in the vicinity of Los Alamos Ranch School in New Mexico was chosen. The federal government paid $440,000 for 9,000 acres of land at Los Alamos. In the middle of the desert, surrounded by barbed wire, Los Alamos, or Site Y, was where the actual design and construction of the two atomic bombs that would later be called Fat Man and Little Boy took place. Los Alamos and two other sites, Site X in East Tennessee and Site W in Hanford, Washington, served as other research facilities. Work on the Manhattan Project proceeded at a frantic pace. Two types of weapons were being developed at Los Alamos. The first, a uranium bomb called Little Boy. The second type of bomb was a plutonium bomb named Fat Man. Scientists concluded the relatively simple gun assembly used for the uranium bomb would not work for the plutonium bomb. Physicist Seth Nerdermeyer proposed surrounding the bomb with a layer of explosives. Most scientists, including Oppenheimer, did not believe the theory would work. Nerdermeyer's implosion method had to be tested before it could be implemented, but that meant testing the most potentially destructive weapon ever known somewhere in America. In 1944, Oppenheimer began searching for suitable testing sites for what he called the gadget. The site was designated Trinity, and the date for testing the gadget was set for July 16. An area appropriately called Jornada del Muerto, or Journey of Death, was chosen as the test site. Finally, the gadget was ready to be tested. The explosion went 38,000 feet into the atmosphere in 7 minutes. The immediate blast area was engulfed in thick black smoke for over an hour. Now that Nazi Germany was defeated, the war in Europe was over, and America set their sights on resilient Japan. After the Trinity test, many scientists paused to consider the consequences of their actions. Was it morally right to use the bomb against Japan, a virtually defeated enemy with no nuclear capability?
When I started studying, when I first looked at the Manhattan Project, one of the things I noticed was, why would we have dropped a couple bombs like that on innocent civilians? But then when you look back at it, you start to think, well, Truman's famous words was he always said, you got started when you attacked Pearl Harbor. So that was his big argument, because they asked him one time, they asked Truman if he had regret for dropping the bombs, and Truman said, you should do your weeping at Pearl Harbor.
Leo Szilard predicted that dropping the bomb on Japan would start a nuclear arms race that could result in the equal destruction in both countries. Along with the help of fellow physicists James Franck and Eugene Wigner, Szilard circulated petitions signed by 69 other scientists addressed to President Truman. However, the letter never reached the desk of President Truman because Oppenheimer was outraged after hearing of the petitions. With much apprehension from various scientists, the decision to drop the bomb was made. Truman was not about to commit political suicide by refusing to use a $2 billion bomb that would save thousands of American lives. On July 26, President Truman issued the Potsdam Declaration, a document that called for the immediate, unconditional surrender of Japan. As expected, the Japanese rejected the Potsdam Declaration, and a plan to drop the atomic bomb was underway. The plan called for Fat Man and Little Boy. A target committee selected a new list of potential targets for the atomic bomb: Hiroshima, Kokura, Niigata, and Nagasaki. Finally, they set their target to be Hiroshima. 8:15 a.m. on August 6, 1945, Little Boy dropped towards Hiroshima. The plane felt the effects of the bomb with a bright light and 2 shockwaves. The pilot radioed the co-pilot, speaking of the successful results. The co-pilot had a different response. In his notes, he wrote, "My God, what have we done?" 90% of the city was destroyed. Fires burned for days because all of the firefighters had been killed in the blast and their equipment destroyed. Only very few doctors survived to assist the injured victims. It was complete devastation. Immediately following the Hiroshima bombing, the American planes dropped leaflets through Japan warning the Japanese of impending doom if they choose to continue the war. At 3:49 a.m. on August 9th, the plane lifted off heading for Kokura. However, the pilot was forced to change course for Nagasaki due to cloudy weather. Though the weather was not much different, the bomb was still dropped, exploding in mid-air, killing approximately 40,000 natives. Due to a rumor of possible bombing of Tokyo, Japan accepted the Potsdam Declaration and surrendered. Within 5 years, 275,000 people had died as a direct result of the atomic bombs. Einstein told one New York Times reporter, "The world is not yet ready for it."